I'm Gab, he's Jules. This is the Gab Juls Show, presented by Gusto. It's gray skies over
Yeah.
West London, maybe gray skies over North London too, despite the joy from the parade yesterday, but definitely blue skies over Paris, over the City of Lights, over the Eiffel Tower, over Notre Dame, over Montmartre, because for the second consecutive year, Paris Saint-Germain are European champions. And Jules, I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
Okay.
I don't want you to have to be humble. I
Yeah.
will say, and I wrote this based on what I saw in terms of the game of football, deservedly so.
Yeah, I think so. And I think again over certainly the second half of the season and the knockout phase of the Champions League, if you want, because they obviously didn't do that well in the first league phase. Nobody can argue that they are the best team in the world right now, the best team in Europe anyway. They've beaten the English champions, they've beaten the German champions, they've beaten the England champion from last season, they've beaten the Club World Cup winners through all those rounds. And I think again in the final they show a different side of themselves. They faced an Arsenal team that had a clear game plan. It was very difficult, but I thought again you open the game to them, to PSG, you get punished. You close the game to PSG, you get punished. You do a mix, you also get punished, and I think they're just a wonderful footballing team.
Yeah, what impressed me, and we'll get to how the game unfolded and Arsenal's approach and everything, was that in the first half, and obviously Arsenal helped by the early goal as well, but it looked to me as if broadly it was working. I don't think Paris Saint-Germain threatened. You also had
Yeah.
and it wasn't a chance because he never got the shot off, but the Havertz situation late in at the end of the first half.
The shot blocked by Marquinhos.
I don't know if it was counted as a block or not, but yes,
No,
yes, he's in the
I
box.
agree
Right?
with you.
But
It's a
that could have
it's a
been
good opportunity. Yeah.
So Luis Enrique says, I need to change this in the second half. And I think we saw more. We saw Paris Saint-Germain being more physical. And I think that was directly by this. I think he even talked about it afterwards in his presser from some of the quotes I saw. Moving Desiree Doué into a more central position and giving Dembele space outside. And also I thought, John, in the build-up, how Paris Saint-Germain build with that kind of 3+1 where Nuno Mendes becomes a third center back and Vitinha sits. He often moved João Neves deeper. And that created situations, I thought, which they could then exploit. And you had the Kvaratskhelia chance, obviously. You can have a million chances, but in the end, when you count up the expected goals and the shots on goal, it's pretty one-sided.
Yeah, they just had to find a way. They had to dig deep. I think this final and this second Champions League will feel probably even more rewarding than the first one against Inter Milan a year ago, where obviously the final was a masterpiece and a masterclass, but in a way, you didn't have to fight that hard to go and then get it. This time you went behind. The first half, I think what was really interesting, if you remember the Club World Cup final against Chelsea, when Chelsea scored early and had, in a way, a kind of a similar-ish maybe game plan to Arsenal. I think PSG that night, that afternoon, got frustrated, got a bit angry, and wanted to go back straight at Chelsea, which then opened them up a little bit more. And Chelsea scored the second one, the third one, and then there was no more game. This time, after the Havertz goal, they took more time and said, you know what, let's just control this. Even if it stays at 1-0 down, we're not out of this completely. Even at half time, we wouldn't be. Let's just keep the ball, make sure that they don't get another chance like that, and then see what happens at that time. And Luis Enrique said to the players at halftime, said, keep doing what you've been doing with a few changes that we mentioned already, but at some point they might make a mistake, and that's exactly what happened.
All right, the Madueke Nuno Mendes incident, big talking point among Arsenal, big talking point for Arteta, who went back to it after the game in the post-match presser. Was it a penalty for you?
I thought it was. I thought there's contact from Nuno Mendes, and if it's given, it's not overturned. And again, if it's not given, I don't think VAR has to check.
Not clear and obvious.
Yeah. But I would have given it.
For me, what I struggle with, I predicted that actually Arsenal were going to throw them a curveball in this game, that they were going to come out and be more proactive, more attacking. Obviously, that didn't happen. And I have to say, I was disappointed by what I saw, because so much of the analytics, of the received wisdom beyond that, holding out 1-0, leaving aside whether it's ugly or fun or fun to watch, 25% possession, you generally do not get results that way. We remember when it happens, but most of the time it doesn't. And I thought it sent off a sign of weakness, which I don't think fit what this Arsenal squad were about all season long.
No, you're right.
Even when they were conservative, they never felt kind of weak to me.
True. Although I think it's very difficult to play against this PSG team. And probably the early goal amplified even more the game plan. But I think it was a good game plan. The problem, and we mentioned that, density is great, and that's what you need against this PSG team. But you need bowlers as well. And for example, I would have started Calafiori at left back because of his ability technically. I would have probably put Eze instead of Trossard on the left too, because I think then the game plan worked defensively. But then when you got the ball, you need those technical players to be able to keep the ball a bit longer, move your block forward, and then try to create something. And maybe in the end, they just didn't have enough of that technical ability all around the pitch, not just Saka or Odegaard or Havertz. But we said Havertz would start, and we were spot on. I think we were spot on with everything we predicted would happen in this game for Arsenal would do and how PSG would have to bring them down. We said if there's one team that can disrupt the PSG tempo, it's them. The problem is with the ball, you had to do more.
Yeah, and if you're going to break the tempo, you also have to have periods where, like you said, where you keep the ball, because otherwise they just come straight back at you, and sooner or later somebody's going to make a mistake. All right, Jules, let's get a little more granular now, shall we?
Yeah.
In terms of the refereeing incidents, let's just run through these. The Bukayo Saka handball, I thought the ball comes off his body and then to his arm. I thought it was the right decision not to give it. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never in favor of those penalties. I think they're completely stupid. He misses the ball. I'm not even sure how he misses the ball anyway.
I've never seen him look this uncoordinated.
And then after that, you're right. I think there's a bit of body first, maybe the arm. I think there's both arms. There was nobody at PSG probably because they won as well who was like, what did you think? But I'm glad it was not given for sure.
All right, Mosquera, obviously he gave away the penalty after the Kfara 1-2. Some people suggesting it was a denial of goal-scoring opportunity, should have been a yellow. I didn't see it that way.
I didn't see it that way at all either. But there was a few people in France who did wonder why it was not a second yellow and a red. I don't think that foul deserves a yellow anyway.
So overall, if we're going to judge the referee, Mr. Daniel Zibert, I know there will be people disagreeing with the penalty situation.
What about the corner before the break?
Oh, well, in fact, I didn't let them take the corner?
Yeah.
So, laws of the game say you don't have to do that. You don't have to let them take the corner. Convention says let them take the corner. And I kind of feel, what do you gain from not letting them take the corner? Other than
he had given 6 minutes
them.
Extra.
Yeah.
And that was 6:31.
I
know it's up to him. He can stop at 6, he can stop at 7.
It's entirely up to him. It is something that does kind of, it annoys players. It annoys referees. It annoys coaches. I mean, unless the one thing, the only thing I would say is, I forget, was there another dead ball situation before the corner? If he had said to them, hey, it's 6 minutes, next time the ball's out, I'm whistling, which some referees do.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, look.
No, because he let Saka take the ball all the way to the corner flag.
That was weird.
And everybody in position almost. And then I see Dembele sprinting towards the bench or towards the tunnel between the benches. And I'm like, because I didn't hear the whistle because we couldn't, obviously. But yeah.
I thought, when I saw Dembele sprinting like that, I thought, my God, is there an incident on the touchline? Did something happen?
Yeah, I agree.
But no, it's just everybody walking off, which, yes, that definitely felt a little weird to me. More generally about sort of the spirit in which the game had been played. Obviously, Arsenal were intense and physical. I don't think Arsenal were dirty. I think Paris Saint-Germain lifted the physicality in the second half in terms of winning the ball back. One thing that struck me early on is against Bayern, we saw Safonov, I think he did this 6 or 7 times, goal kicks, not even trying to get them to a teammate, just kicking them straight into touch so that PSG could press afterwards. He did it 2 minutes into the game before Arsenal scored. And then clearly he's like, there's no point doing this because we're just going to get the ball back anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I thought that kind of tells you a lot about how it played. We'll get to the substitutions in a minute, but I think I want to go back for a minute to the Arteta plan to play this way. Afterwards, I was kind of surprised at the questions he got. And, post-game, what generally happens for those who haven't been there, Arteta comes in with the Arsenal press officer, and there's the UEFA press officer there. And they take questions, and it's generally questions from the journalists who follow the team regularly. I think, in fact, they were all part of the
apart from the Spanish
Spanish guy
Juan
at the end.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me like they were very empathetic softball questions. Nobody pushing him. I mean, Arteta was obviously sad looking. He said, "Oh, it's about what are you feeling?" It's like pain. Now, he's going to review this. He said he's going to spend a few days with his family. He's going to review this. When he looks back, is he going to second guess himself? Is he still going to go back and say, "If I could go back in time, I would make the right decisions in his approach"? Because this is what I struggle with.
I think it was a good game plan. I really do. I do. And to be fair, it's the game plan that we predicted again, because I think.
But the fact that we predicted it doesn't make it a good game plan.
No. True. But we predicted it. We predicted that's what they would do and how they would set up. Okay, we got it slightly wrong because I thought, again, to go back to the point we made earlier, there would be more ballers even in that team. But right now, if I look at this Arsenal team, and it's a final, so it's not over 2 legs. It's very different to the semi-final of last season. Where you had obviously a home leg first, and then you were chasing the game in the second leg away in Paris.
And you created many more chances and forced Donnarumma to win.
But you approach the game like in the final very differently to a 2-leg semi-final, quarter-final, whatever stage you are in. And I thought this was a good game plan. I think that was the only game plan. I think they wanted more with the ball, and they had more intention with the ball, of course. And that's why the first goal so early amplified even more this. And that's also what they're very good at. So why would you not do something you're very good at right now, which is, defending in numbers, not giving them space. That 4-4-2 out of possession worked so well in that first half, and there was no reason really that it would not work as well in the second half. And up to the penalty and the Mosquera mistake, it was great. Then I think he might look at other things. For example, in the end, Julien Timber played 70 minutes, right? Because he came on for the last half hour.
I'm assuming because Mosquera was on a yellow.
And I'd just given up the penalty. I'd given the penalty too. But then if Timber can play an hour, because half an hour of extra time and the last half hour of the game, could he maybe have started? And maybe it was too uncertain.
Well, he didn't know that the game was going to go to extra time, of course, at that point.
True.
Right?
So maybe he thought, no, he can only do half an hour and that's maximum. So there might be positions where he thinks, okay, again, Calafiori maybe would have been better than Nkapie. Could he have done something a little bit different in that midfield? The right back position, I don't know. Or maybe his substitutions, because I didn't have too many issues with the substitutions apart from the fact that in the end, Nkapie got hurt. Could not be.
It's just burning all of them. Because, if David Raya bangs his head, then you're putting Declan Rice in goal in extra time, right?
No. I hear
or
you.
actually, you'd probably put Gyökeres just because he's bigger, he covers more of the goal.
But don't forget as well, this is... Luis Enrique had been in finals before. He was in the final, last season of this. I'm not talking about League Cup finals,
right?
But I think for Arteta and the club and the players and everybody involved from an Arsenal point of view, this is a huge learning curve. This is a massive learning process. That it's the first final. It's not easy to deal with, and I think they will take a lot away from it, positive and negatives, of course. But whenever that comes back, and they won't have to wait another 20 years to be in a Champions League final, they will be much more ready for it.
What I struggle with a little bit, and these are the tough decisions you make. I mean, look, I'm going to call a spade here. Martin Odegaard hasn't been the same player as the last 2 years. It's not just that Arsenal are playing differently, which is part of it, and I don't think helps him. And also Saka isn't the same guy right now. Maybe he can get back to it. There's suggestions that his injury could be worse than some people had anticipated, whatever. But those are 2 of your 3 highest paid players. Those are 2 players in which you've put a lot of resources. I think this is one of the decisions he has to make. It's a final. Of course, I'm going to start Saka and Odegaard. With hindsight, in a game like this, given what Saka was able to contribute, in terms of being put in position where he can do what he's good at, you might go back and say, well, if I just want a guy who can help out the right back and so on, and provide a threat on the counter, maybe Noni Madueke is that guy. But then again, Saka is one of my 2 captains. I still don't know which one's the official captain and which one's the vice captain. Did you see what I'm saying? Like there's a human level to these decisions.
Yeah.
But when he looks and he says, I can't be inhuman. But when he looks back, I think there's a lot of things, whether it's not just the more ballers, it's the guys you have out there. I mean, if Zubimendi, another issue, right? The whole point of Zubimendi coming this summer was to have the guy who can keep the ball in pass and so on and dictate the tempo. So on. We've been told, Zubimendi's too tired. He's physically shattered. That's why it's one of the reasons why he didn't start. We didn't see much of him. Fine. So part of the learning curve is, do I need to manage Zubimendi's minutes during the season so he doesn't get to May in these conditions where I can't start him in a game in which I needed him? Because if I had the best Zubimendi in this game, you talked about the possession.
But you would have never started Zubimendi, though, would you?
If I had the real Zubimendi?
Yeah.
I like I said, I think Paris Saint-Germain, the way they attack, the way they defend when Hakimi's forward, I'd have no problem having a guy who can thread a ball into space. I mean, right now, no.
You need the power of Lewis Kelly, though, more than Zubimendi in a game, in a final like that.
It
Zubimendi
depends.
didn't bother me.
I think no. I mean, Zubimendi now because of his condition.
Yeah,
yes.
but even with the form that Lewis Kelly has been on, even if Zubimendi was his best and physically super fit and stuff, I would have probably done what Arteta did for that double pivot and the substitution.
What I would question though, Jules, is ultimately we're talking about being reactive versus being proactive, right? And he went on a journey where for 3 years he tried to build a team that was very proactive. This year he went into a reactive situation. For most of the season, you had Zubimendi. This whole idea of depth is having another guy who can do what Zubimendi does, not as well, being a backup Zubimendi, right? Same skill set, so that when Zubimendi's not there, it doesn't impact the whole team. And I can pay that possession game, which I'm less likely to do with Lewis Kelly, not because he's not a good passer, but he's simply less experienced, less press resistant. If he's got a guy up his backside, he's more likely to give the ball away or maybe not build it.
I disagree completely.
Really?
Yeah.
You think Lewis Kelly and Zubimendi are comps?
The Lewis Kelly that we've seen in this kind of form late in the season, I don't know why he was not played before, but in terms of press resistant, keeping the ball, passing the ball forwards, I think he's outstanding. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think even in terms of experience, there's a bit more because I guess Zubimendi went a bit further. Played a bit more at the Euros and things like that with Spain. But I think Lewis Kelly is outstanding in that position.
I'm not questioning whether he's outstanding or not, but you see Lewis Kelly then in that kind of six playmaking role.
Definitely.
Then why did it take so long to see him? I mean, that's another question.
Yeah.
Right?
And Arteta said it himself after the Fulham game. I said it's on me why I didn't see this before.
Other element here. I'm always struck by this in finals when you see players with cramps. And obviously, Dembele had them, and he came off at the end of the 90 minutes. Those last couple minutes, by the way, before the final whistle, when he's standing in the box and he keeps touching his leg and stuff, and Luis Enrique is thinking all right, let's just blow the whistle and let me see if he's okay, if we can get him back out there or not. That was pretty excruciating. I felt like if a ball had come near him, he was either going to rip his tendon trying to go for it or just watch it go by, right? And also Hincapie, the last 10
as well, Raya.
It's weird. We see this in football. We don't often see this cramping in other sports. And you imagine these are finely tuned professional athletes.
Yeah.
Is there since you're medically adjacent far more than me, is there also some sort of psychosomatic stress thing that comes into it too that affects you in the games?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Because you could look at, and there were cooling breaks in this final, but we were there. It was humid and it was really hot. No,
not like it's going to be in the World Cup.
No. But and the intensity was not so much physically because, as we said, one team had the ball 75% of the time, and the others. But I think it's the kind of mental intensity that you have to play with in those kind of games final where you can't make a mistake and you're so focused and so the concentration is so high that I think that asks a lot of your body, and even more than with the running, even more than with the heat and the humidity and things like that. And for me that's the reason why I've never seen Vitinha, who usually runs more than 11K a game, cramp. But then after a long season as well, maybe that's also, even if PSG players played less than Arsenal players overall, but I think it's probably more mental than anything else.
One of the points we talk about the mental side. we've talked about, I'm certainly not picking on Saliba, he's still among the best, right? But like, we talked about how few mistakes he had made this season. So you could argue he's due one. And in this game, it came arguably twice.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of it is also I was thinking about this because I said, all right, some of it is the intensity, but most of the time that Saliba was defending, he had a million players around him. Both times that it came kind of in transition and open play and certainly the Speedy Barcola one. I know Barcola's not the most technically gifted player, certainly on this PSG team. If he doesn't take that last touch wide, he's got a very clear chance, probably better even than the Kvaratskhelia chance.
Yeah, I mean, he has to score the ball regardless of a bad touch or no bad touch. Shooting on his weaker foot is not the answer here. But he clearly never looked up at Gonzalo Ramos, who's just there for the tap-in. And that's the thing. And he even mentioned it onto his social media thing, saying like, I know I should have won the game like right at the end. In the end, it didn't matter so much. But for William, yeah, that was a rare mistake that could have been costly. That didn't cost in the end. Not on that move certainly.
A couple other things. One, just because I think Kai Havertz is the best on earth, and I get defensive when people question him. When he took off Odegaard for Gyökeres, so he could kind of keep that 4-2-4 press and defensive save. One incident, which I think for me, it really stood out. For a lot of people, I haven't heard anybody else mention it. I don't even know if you remember it. It was an incident. I think it was at the end of, I think it was in the second half because Arsenal were attacking the goal to our left. There's some like mad clearance from the back, and he goes and he's chasing it down. There's two Paris Saint-Germain defenders. It goes from one to the other. He somehow manages to bully Pacho. I'm assuming, in my memory, it's Pacho. It might have been Marquinhos. And he just pokes the ball through to Saka, who's coming from the right side. Safonov is coming off his line. And I assume this is a goal because Saka's going to get there first. Instead, Safonov gets there almost relatively comfortably. This is what Havertz brings you. And when people go and the fact that you can have Havertz with all the technical stuff that he brings, but he can also bring that level of physicality. For me, it's a freaking no-brainer that the guy should be your center forward because you can do so many more things. Do you remember the incident?
Yeah, was it for Saka though? I thought Saka was off already. No. But like, I think it was very obvious that Kai Havertz would start this final. They needed his skill set more than what Gyökeres could have offered that in a final like this in the setup and the game plan that Arteta had for the team. If he can stay fit and when the team has also more going forward because they will next season, I think we could see a very, very good Kai Havertz. The problem is, I think fitness is always an issue with him, unfortunately.
All right, a couple more things. First on the penalties. So David Raya did that thing, which he either thought of himself or he got all those mental coachy type people that Arteta employs to tell him to do, which I thought was interesting. So every time when he would run to the ball, pick up the ball and take it and personally hand it to the next Arsenal penalty taker and pat him on the back. Clearly that was by design. It's not by accident because he did it every time. Safonov seemed totally disinterested.
Safonov was looking at his
notes.
Paper, because I saw him kneeling down while PSG players were taking their penalties and opening the towel where he had all his notes. And I mean, in the end, he didn't make.
I presume Raya had notes too.
Maybe on the bottle or something, and maybe he looked at them after handing on the ball. But there was clearly two different approaches.
But he was handing the ball to the Arsenal players, so he had time to look at them while the Arsenal guy took
after handing the ball, he was coming back to his bottle. But Safonov was just focused on the notes. Not that I helped him that much, although I think on the Eze penalty, the Gabriel one, he gets the right side. I don't think Gabriel misses because Safonov has gone the right side. But for the Eze one to stand up as long as he did, I think It kind of throws him off.
So even though he managed to win a Champions League without making a single save, and also that was horrible. I understand, like, he thinks Havertz is going to put the shot low, but bro, you're a goalkeeper. Like, move your arms up at least. Even if you move them late, just make it look. It looked.
I wonder if he's ready for the cross, because I think Pacho is waiting for the cross, and Pacho slows down, thinking like he's not going to take it. No, he's going to shoot from there.
Right.
Because really the angle is so tight that then you might think maybe the cross is a better option, and maybe he will take that option. And I think both of them, both Pacho and Safonov, for me, Pacho definitely can go for the ball. And you see him waiting, almost like if the cross was coming. And Safonov definitely for like staying like a statue.
Final point. I was watching this final. I had next to Mark Ogden.
Okay.
And you can imagine the experience
Yeah.
of sitting next to somebody old school and northern and grumpy.
Yeah.
He was complaining about the lack of flow, about the fact that every time there was an injury or whatever, Arteta would, both managers would talk to the players who were around, but Arteta made a point of the huddle and conviviality and all this stuff. And the time wasting and so on. Is he just being grumpy? Is it just normal?
No, I can see what people like, Luis Enrique, it took him 10 minutes to do the gesture with his hand, finger on where the watch is usually saying to the referee. I think to go back to disrupting the flow and the tempo of the game, I think this Arsenal team, when they need to be, are very good at it, and that's what they do. And I think there's not much. Maybe the referee can say, "Please, can you hurry up? Do your throw?"
Or you just book a guy. If you really want to do it.
Which he did, to be fair. Eventually, and maybe a bit too late for some of the PSG people, but I've got absolutely zero.
It's hard too, because if you book somebody early for somebody like that, if you start doing it after 10 minutes, right? You say, I'm going to stamp out on this, and you book somebody early, then they have to play the game on a booking, which is going to affect their game.
Yeah.
Maybe you make it a point to book a forward or a winger.
Maybe. So there need to be a recurrence before you book it.
Exactly. It has to be persistent and sporting behavior.
You've been doing it too long now. All of you here in this team, here you go.
Welcome back to the Gab and Juls Show, presented by Gusto. Jules, we need to put this into some kind of context, because it is a big deal winning back-to-back titles. Nobody has done it other than Real Madrid, who kind of play a different sport, since 1990. I made the point after Paris Saint-Germain won it last year, and you disagreed with me, that this put Paris on the map as a footballing capital. You said, no, we were always one. Fine. Now even more so.
Yeah.
2 in a row. And when I look at this club, and I made the point, I always think about how different Paris Saint-Germain are from the other European elites, in the sense that one of my favorite things is that when Premier League teams do well in Europe, it's because they play in the Premier League, they're battle hardened, they play top competition every week, right? When teams like Paris Saint-Germain do well, no, it's because they're playing rubbish every week, so they're all well rested. Yeah. So you can't have it both ways. That's one consideration. My other consideration, you can tell me I'm wrong here. Paris Saint-Germain built a tremendous brand. Most casual fans around the world do not watch Paris Saint-Germain games unless they're Paris Saint-Germain fans. So the experience the club, in some ways, through highlights, through TikTok, through whatever, they're not necessarily in tune with the way a Manchester United fan here might be in tune with Liverpool, because he sees more of Liverpool, which in some ways I think helps to globalize and helps spread the brand. At the same time, though, Paris Saint-Germain are more identified with the city of Paris, I'd argue, than any other top European side, with a possible exception of Bayern.
Yeah.
And the way they can balance having that hardcore local support, very identified. There's a freaking Eiffel Tower is on the badge, right? That's something Real Madrid can't do. It's something, and doesn't want to do, probably. It's something Arsenal can't do. Barcelona are obviously heavily identified with Catalonia, but there's also a nationalist element. There's also a lot of people there who are not Catalans, not nationalists in the city of Barcelona. They can't identify with the city in the same way. It's a pretty unique set of circumstances.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they saw it very quickly after the Qatari took over. That's why they slightly, changed the club crest, for example. And that's why I think they push very much the angle that you're describing it, Gabby. they've done things really smartly, marketing-wise too. For example, they had 2 pop-up shops in Budapest. That was not for PSG fans or Arsenal fans. It was for people in Budapest,
Right.
Ready to watch their team play. And I think it's things like that. They have a shop in London. They're the only European club, non-English club, to have a shop in London. They actually are the only non-London club to have a shop in London. So I think some of the stuff they've done is really, really impressive, but they also had to win. And now this has taken the brand, but also the club to have made history like they did on Saturday to another level.
Where did we go? Where did we go from here in terms of the summer and the signings potentially? There's talk of Barcola possibly moving on. Safonov still hasn't convinced everyone. What do you see happening?
Yeah, it's a big summer, I think, and Luis Enrique said it, but in his own way, saying like, we're not going to change everything. We'll do little by little. Luis Campos, the sporting director, is already looking. But I think last summer's investment, so there was Chevalier, which was expensive at 50 million. I expect him to go this summer. Zabani, who hasn't really worked out, maybe like the club would have wanted, and Luis Enrique.
He's not ready to take over.
No, and it's the first season, and you're still adapting. And that was it really. So I think the idea now is to go and get a bit more depth. Even they want a forward that can play in different positions. Julian Alvarez is obviously a big name on their list. So is Eli Kroupi Jr.
He can play in. No,
he's going to come back, but go again. Eli Kroupi Jr. at Bournemouth is also very much on the list, like Yann Diomande, who's also on the list of other top clubs. In midfield, I think they will be looking as somebody like, Ayub Bouadi, for example, or Marnes Akliouche. And then defensively too, I think there will be, whether it's a goalkeeper like a Diogo Costa, Porto, that can come and really challenge Safonov, for example, or a defender that can play a centre-back or a right-back like a Joël Ordonez at Club Brugge. So all those names are people they're following. I think Ibrahima Konate now as a free agent, as a Paris-born and bred kid, has to be on their list too. Because at some point, Marquinhos, who turns 33 this summer and was great in the second leg semi-final, in this final, at some point...
You have to think succession.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah. And also, I want to see Warren Zaire-Emery, that succession of him as a starting midfielder.
Was so good when he came on. And Luis Enrique obviously will extend his contract in the next few days to 2030.